Hi, Allison. How are you?
Hi, Victor. Great to see you again.
Great having you here. We have a chance to be here at the American Helicopter Museum. As you can see here, folks, we have our UH-34, which is in Marine colors. This was a Korean War era helicopters used for heavy lift. Was replaced eventually by the UH-1. We have Ms. Allison Titman with us today, the executive director here at the museum. So let's talk a little bit about the programs you have going on here. It's pretty exciting. You got to reopen.
Yes, we're really glad to be able to welcome members of the public back into the museum safely. They can come see over 35 helicopters on display, both in our gallery and outdoors. And I would like everyone watching to note that I gave you the glamorous location out in the gallery in front of the helicopters.
Yes.
While I hang out in our conference room with the pictures instead. But where
We're
you're standing is a great representation of the museum because behind you, you have everything from a big military helicopter to a little civilian gyrocopter. And that's really representative of our collection. We have rotary vehicles that people built at home in their garages from kits. And then we have big military helicopters that were transporting Marines in the Korean and Vietnam Wars, and really everything in between.
fantastic. One of the things that's very important here, we had to follow a whole bunch of safety protocols prior to getting in here. So we want to make everybody, have everybody rest assured that we followed the same safety protocols. We're keeping our social distancing here. Let's talk about some of the safety protocols that you've implemented here to keep our viewers and visitors safe.
Yeah, while we were closed, we were hard at work making sure that when we reopened, the site was in the best position to keep not only our visitors safe, but also our staff and volunteers. And we really want everyone who comes through our door to feel comfortable being here despite everything that's going on. So we actually had to move some helicopters so that we could establish a clear visitor path from our front door into the museum store where you can purchase your ticket, and then out winding your way through the gallery, seeing all of our collection, and then exiting out the back door where you can see the Cobra, the V-22 Osprey, and the runway at Brandywine Airport. We also have hand sanitizer stations at the front door, the back door, and in between. We make sure that visitors socially distance between groups, and we encourage hand washing and whatever else people feel like they need to do to make sure that they're comfortable here.
Fantastic. And so for those of you, Allison just alluded to that, the whole museum has been rearranged. So there's a natural flow, a pathway that you can take to make your way around the museum. It just kind of keeps people on a natural path. They can see all the items, get fairly close to them, and still have some safety protocols that get followed. Let's talk about some of the helicopters that you have available. You said there are 35 helicopters, all different eras. So I saw the Marine Corps Whiskey Cobra, or I believe it's a Whiskey Cobra, it might be a Mike Cobra, single engine.
Victor, you're going to know more about the helicopters than I am, probably. I've been here as executive director about a year, knowing very little about helicopters when I started. I've been having fun learning about our collection, but my expertise is really in museums. The way that I've been able to learn about our collection, though, is from the people who care about the helicopters. From people like you who are really passionate because you were a Marine and these were some really familiar vehicles, to Ron Mecklin, who almost broke the helicopter speed record in the Boeing 360 out front, to our docent Walter, who was an Army pilot in Vietnam. For me, the way to connect to the helicopters, I'm less about the engines and components and more about the stories. So I appreciate them as engineering marvels. I still think vertical takeoff and landing is an engineering miracle. But
Yeah.
I like to know about the people who flew them and the people who care about them. So one of my favorite corners of the museum is in our Pioneer Hall exhibit, the information about the Whirly Girls, the Association of Women Helicopter Pilots that was started by women helicopter pilots in 1955, is still going strong, has over 2,200 members, and awards thousands of dollars in scholarships every year to women who want to learn how to fly.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a great note. We're seeing many more young ladies, young women, and even some more seniors taking on aviation. It used to be that aviation was a pursuit of either the really young, meaning 20 on up, in their teens, in their 20s, right? And then there was a big gap from the mid 20s into 40. Then people had that quote unquote midlife crisis, and they would decide to go and pursue their aviation career. And then again in the 60s. So it seems to be like a every 20-year type of thing. So let's go into some of the other helicopters here, because it's not just military helicopters. We also have some civilian helicopters. I'm going to switch the camera around here so we can go to the other side. And what you're going to see here is a picture of the S-76 Sikorsky helicopter. All right. And that should give you a pretty good picture of the size of that thing. That's very similar to what, that's a very similar helicopter. I'm going to take this off of the tripod here to bring this around so we can see this right here.
Our most glamorous helicopter.
Yes. So this is very similar to the one that Kobe Bryant flew in, right? It's a very capable helicopter and has a pretty storied history, built here in Philadelphia. So let's talk a little about the history of helicopters here in Philadelphia, especially in the suburbs, because we have the Piaseckis, we have Sikorsky. Have they been great supporters of the museum?
They are. We actually have an exhibit up front that helps visitors to understand why the museum is where it is. Our building actually belonged to a helicopter company called MBB. They built the facility as a production facility, so it's great that now we operate it as a museum. But the history of helicopters in our region goes back to the early 20th century with the first imported vertical flight vehicles, and then with development and engineering really happening here in the Delaware Valley. Like you said, we had makers like Piasecki, and we can still see where original companies have turned into modern operations like Sikorsky, which is now owned by Lockheed Martin, but still has a really proud history of rotary wing aviation. And that S-76 helicopter that you showed everyone actually came to us straight from Sikorsky. They were really proud to know that it would be shown here at the museum because they're really proud of its development and construction. That S-76 actually is in the head of state interior configuration. So it's about as fancy as you can get for a helicopter. Inside, it has built-in TV, DVD player, and bar with champagne flutes, so that while you're in mid-flight, you have all the comforts of home.
Well, one of the things I was going to add also, if you're looking to take your family on a tour here, it's great. It's 95 degrees outside, and it's actually very comfortable here inside the museum. Lots of air movement, which is one of the reasons why we were able to take the masks off, because we got the airflow. But we still encourage everybody when they come through to make sure that they bring their masks with them. Some of the future programs that you have coming up, do we want to talk about that, just so we can help support the museum?
Sure, thank you. We were hard at work even during our closure, making sure that the museum can continue to serve its visitors when it reopens. So there was a lot that happened behind the scenes in terms of just logistics around continuing to answer phone calls and emails and make sure we were still connecting to people who wanted to know when we would reopen, and with our members and our generous donors. So for people who care about the museum, I would just ask that you continue to support it as donors and members. Now that we're open, it's really worth getting a membership. Like you said, it's 95 degrees outside. It feels great in here. And usually if you're gonna come 2 or 3 times over the course of a year, the membership is gonna more than pay for itself. We're also working on moving some of our signature programming online. So this fall, our Girls in Science and Technology program, which uses helicopters as a gateway to STEM education and works to overcome the gender gap in STEM, is going to move to a virtual program where girls can join us 2 Saturdays a month to learn about concepts in STEM and then actually get guided through hands-on experiments that they can do at home.
Fantastic. So the Whirlybirds, we want to support them, as well as the 99s, which we didn't really talk about, but Also very important organization for promoting women in aviation. We have Women in Aviation, WAI International, that's one of the other organizations, as well as all the work happening here at the American Helicopter Museum. It's actually one of the hidden gems of the Delaware Valley. So please come on out and support it. It's a great way to spend the day. And also, you have a great gift shop, right? So a lot of really cool stuff in the gift shop, which you can get online, right?
Well, you have to come here to get your American Helicopter Museum merchandise, at least for now. But we have great custom t-shirts.
Okay.
We have hats, and I'm a big fan of, and then a selection of helicopter-related memorabilia. You'll remember, since you were here in February when we had the Tuskegee Airmen on site, we had a great panel discussion with them and Dr. Robert Kadosky, who's written a new book in conjunction with the Philadelphia chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen. We have the book for sale here, and then we also have the DVD recording of that live discussion with them, which is just so important. There are so few World War II veterans left, and it's such a treasure when we're able to hear their stories from them.
Well, great. Thank you for your time. We're going to wrap up our show here. And this is Melissa.
Thank you so much, Allison. We just wanted to say thank you for having us here. It's one of our favorite places. So again, it's the American Helicopter Museum in Westchester, Pennsylvania. We're honored to have this be our first official on-location shoot for Mainline tonight. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a good rest of the day.
Bye-bye.